Hey guys, this is Summer Rayne from Homestead, Brooklyn, and we are going to go back to the basics today because I have a question in from Frank M, who said, what are some good starter plants? Now, there are lots of great starter plants that I often suggest, and even on my blog at homesteadbrooklyn.com, I have 10 versions of plants that are really easy to start with, but I'm going to highlight 6 here. Now, you'll notice that there's more than 6 on the table, but it's only because I have a few different cultivars and varieties and species of similar plants. So just to give you an idea that you're not all getting the same type of plant. You could get a range of plants to start with. And what I love about a good starter plant is that it gives you the confidence to actually go and get maybe something that's a little bit more high maintenance. So we're going to start off today with one of my favorites, which I think is also an underappreciated houseplant. It's an Aglio NEMA communitatum, which is right here. It's the big flourishing one. You'll notice that it could get a little leggy, so that just means that it starts to get a big stem. But what I like about these is you could just chop it off at the stem and it'll basically sprout again. So you'll see I have one here in water. This basically was a stem at some point and it just started to grow another bit off of it with some of the roots. So this is a traditional Aglio NEMA communitatum, and then you'll see that this one's called a frog skin Aglio NEMA. So this is a cultivar called Tricolor Echo, and then you'll see that this one is a Pictum tricolor. I love this one because it almost looks like an army, kind of like an army camouflage. I even put it in a camouflage pot because I think it would be like it's a little cheesy, I know, but it looks pretty good. The next one on the list is a Scindapsus, and this is a silver pothos. And you could also get an Peperomia aureum, which is a golden pothos or devil's ivy. And you can see that I have this one actually growing in water. So this was a cutting that I took. And you just cut right below the node, which is the little bulbous section where the leaf comes out of. And you cut right below it, and you can put it in water, and it's so easy to propagate. And any plant that is just easy to propagate, I think, is great for a starter plant because, again, builds up that confidence that you could actually do this on your own. Next on my list is also, I always say that these are underappreciated houseplants, but these are Peperomia. So this is a Peperomia dahlstedtii, and this one's a common one that you probably see, a Peperomia obtusifolia. And then this is a Peperomia quadriangularis, and these are all very easy to take care of. I've gotten some comments in that like watermelon Peperomia, ones with like really fine stems, could easily rot if you overwater them. So I would say opt for ones that have a little bit thicker stems and that feel a little bit more succulent, because these are ones that don't need a tremendous amount of light and they don't need a tremendous amount of watering. So if you're heavy-handed on the watering, then I would say maybe don't start with the Peperomia, but otherwise I think that they're very easy to care for plants. Next on my list is kind of fallen out of favor. I think it was really popular back in maybe the 70s and 80s, but this is an Aspidistra elatior, and this is called a cast iron plant. Cast iron plant for a good reason. If you think about a cast iron pot, these are things that last a very long time. It's an evergreen plant. This one is, I think, a different cultivar. It's called Milky Way, so you'll see like it has a little spots on it. And these are ones that could go without watering, maybe a little bit more watering. It doesn't need a tremendous amount of light for people who live in caves, because I know many of us do, with a lot of lack of light. Finally, the next on the list is a Sansevieria. This is a mother-in-law's tongue, or also known as a snake plant. And they come in a lot of different types of varieties. This one here has been sitting in a relatively dark room, I'd have to say, for probably a little over 2 months, and you could see that it's still quite healthy. It's not going to grow as much if you give it a little bit more light, but it's one of those plants that does extremely well if you water it a little bit too much or water it not enough, if you travel a lot. Perfect plants to start with. Finally on my list, and Ms. Frog here, is a Zamioculcas zamiofolia. So it's also called a ZZ plant. It's just after the scientific name. and you'll see it has these beautiful waxy evergreen leaves. Very easy to clean as well. I just take a sponge and you could go backwards on the leaves and it just cleans them up very nicely. Again, plant that really exists in benign neglect. You could give it some sun. It has this like waxy cuticle that protects it from a lot of sun, but it also has these really deep evergreen leaves that if you have it and pull it back from the light, it could still actually photosynthesize at a pretty good rate. So hopefully that helps you, Frank, and many others who are looking for 6 good starter plants. There's so much more to share. I'll probably do a part 2 of this down the line because there's so many plants that I didn't actually include, and that will give you a few options at least to start with. But remember, if you go with starter plants, they really do and will build your confidence to be a good plantsman and plantswoman. And if you like this channel, go ahead and click like on it. Kippy and I would really appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, follow along on Homestead Brooklyn on Instagram. And I also just started a Facebook page as well. So thank you guys. Until next week. Bye.